Now, when you think of rum, chances are you probably think of the Caribbean, which makes sense since we get so much rum from there, from places like Jamaica, Barbados, Martinique, Puerto Rico. Over the last couple of years, we've started getting rums and cane spirits from areas outside of the Caribbean. Mexico, Japan, India, just to name a few. I think it's a sign that the demand and interest for rum in the US is growing. And now we can add another region to that list. This past month, we got not one, but 4 rums from the island of Réunion. In the US, we never get anything from there, so it's really exciting to suddenly get 4 in the same month. When it rains, it pours. We'll get into these rums in a minute, but first let's talk about Réunion, because there's a good chance you might not know a whole lot about it. I know I didn't until fairly recently. For those of you who are curious, Réunion is a volcanic island in the Indian Ocean just east of Madagascar, and the population is a little under 900,000. Now, just like Martinique and Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, Réunion is a French overseas department. What does that mean? Well, think of it like Hawaii. It's part of the US, no different than California or New York, but it's just not part of the mainland. Same thing with Réunion in France. Now, sugarcane farming and sugarcane production have been a big part of Réunion's history and still remains a big part of its economy. It produces somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million tons of sugarcane a year. Now, you wouldn't know it based on the fact that we get so little rum from Réunion, but it actually produces more rum than Martinique or Guadeloupe. And where cane juice rum production is almost half of the rum produced in Guadeloupe and almost 90% in Martinique, in Réunion it's only half of 1%. Meaning Réunion is primarily pumping out molasses-based rums. Now, a lot of that goes out to bulk export to rum brokers and other brands. Now, what cane juice rum that is produced tends to be for the local distilleries' house brands, which are available both locally and in the rest of the French and EU market. Like Martinique and Guadeloupe, Réunion has its own protected geographic indication for its rums, which is recognized throughout the EU. And that GI covers both cane juice and molasses-based rums. And just like Martinique and Guadeloupe, Réunion's cane juice rums are labeled and recognized as rum agricoles. The cane juice for the rum agricoles are all sourced locally, as you'd expect, but according to the GI, the molasses must also be sourced locally and not imported. And there happen to be 2 sugar factories on the island where that molasses comes from. In addition to that, Réunion is also known for their rhum oranges, which is rum that's been macerated with fruits, herbs, and spices. It's a big part of the local drinking culture there. You can do it yourself by buying a bunch of ingredients, or stores will even sell packets of pre-mixed ingredients. Then you can take those and then infuse them into your bottle of rum. Or you can just buy a pre-made, pre-bottled rum orange from any one of the local distilleries. And speaking of distilleries, there are 3 operating distilleries of note on the island, and all of them started in the mid to late 1800s. Of the 3, we're only briefly covering Rivier du Mat, as they don't really have any rum available here in the US. Now, Rivier du Mat is located in the northeast part of the island. It was established in 1886, but its modern operation and distillery started in 1984. It's actually Réunion's largest distillery with annual production of 7 million liters, of which 85% of it is exported out. On top of that, it's owned by France's second biggest liquor conglomerate. And there's no way I'm going to say its name because I'm totally going to butcher it. I'd love to try their rum, so hopefully one day they'll get distribution here in the US. Now let's move on to the 2 distilleries that we did just get rum from, the stars of the show. And what we have here are 2 rums made at the Savanna distillery, but bottled and sold by Holmes Cay, an independent bottler here in the US. Now, these are part of their single origin series, where the focus is on highlighting unaged or young rums and blends from distilleries and regions from around the world. Now, Distillery du Savanna is located in the northeast coast of the island. Savanna was started in 1870, and since 2003 they've sold a portion of their production under their own brand, Savanna, but the bulk of their output historically and to this day is sold to third-party rum brokers, other brands, and independent merchants and bottlers. Hence how Holmes Cay are offering these rums here in the US. Now, Savanna makes a lot of different types of rums, from light molasses rums all the way to unaged and aged rum agricoles. But what rum aficionados really know them for are their very high ester Grand Arome rums. More on those in a minute. Let's get into these bottles. This one is titled Réunion Island Agricole Rum. It's an unaged cane juice rum, closed fermented and distilled on a Saval copper column still and bottled at 50% ABV. And then this one is the Réunion Island Grand Arome Rum. Now, Grand Arome is a very specific style. It's made out of molasses and vinasse. And vinasse is the leftover acids and other organic compounds of previous distillations. That mix of molasses and vinasse goes through a very long fermentation, in this case 10 days. Now, because of the presence of high levels of acid from the vinasse, the alcohol that's being produced starts combining with certain acid molecules that are present, and when that happens, you create esters, which are one of the primary compounds that provide the flavor and aroma for a spirit. In the case of a Grand Arome, you're creating a lot of esters. In terms of distillation, this one is also distilled on a Saval calm still, and ultimately you end up with a very high ester rum that's pungent and aromatic, much in the way that a lot of high ester Jamaican rums are. Now, this particular bottling comes out to 57.5% ABV. All right, enough talking, let's actually try these rums. So we're gonna start off with the Agricole rum. Oh, that's such a great nose. I'm getting green tea and like matcha, a little bit of like dried apricot, and then like damp earth and grass. All right, let's give it a taste. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh man, so I get this like lovely cane sweetness and this floral, almost like chrysanthemum tea note. And there's like a little bit of like white pepper as well. Now, I've had a lot of Agricoles over the years, but this one really stands out. That aroma of green tea, that taste of chrysanthemum. Now, those are flavors and aromas I don't really get in a whole lot of other Agricoles. This one is special. All right, let's try the Grand Arome. Ooh, yeah, definitely pungent and aromatic. The big note I get up front is olive and iodine. You also get a little whiff of barbecue. But once you get past that, you start getting hints of like tropical fruit. This thing is no joke. It's a little intense, so I'm getting like ripe tropical fruits that turns into like burnt tire / rubber, and the finish has like this touch of like cough syrup. Maybe if you're new to rum, none of that necessarily besides the tropical fruit sounds appealing, but trust me, it's incredibly tasty. For both of them, what really stands out is that there's like a touch of viscosity or roundness to them that I absolutely adore. I'm not sure how that's achieved because there's no like sugar added or anything like that, but it really adds like this lovely dimension to both. I gotta say, these are an absolute treat. They've only just come out in the market, but keep an eye out for them. And if you're a fan of cane juice spirits, then I sincerely think you'll like this one here. Now, if you like big, boisterous Jamaican rums, then I think you might actually appreciate the Grand Arome. Either way, there's something here for everyone. Well, unless you only like aged rums or like lightweight molasses rums. Yeah, in that case, I can't really help you, but you know, you should still give them a try. They might change your mind and like rock your world. Next up, we have two very special rums from the Isautier Distillery, which is located on the southern portion of Réunion. Now, these are special bottlings selected in collaboration with Le Masson and Vellier. I don't know if we've ever gotten a bottling of Isautier here in the US, so this is extremely exciting. Now, Isautier is the oldest distillery in Réunion, having been founded in 1845. And through that entire time to the present day, it's been a family-run business for like 7 generations. Now, they make a lot of different rum-based products. They make rum orangés, which they've done since the 70s, and they've had a lot of success with that. And they even make rum-based fruit liqueurs. But we're here to talk about their rum agricoles and molasses rums. And that's exactly what we have here. 2 bottles and 2 different source materials. Now, this is their rum agricole, and it's made from fresh sugarcane juice. And then this one is titled Traditional Rum, and it's made from molasses sourced on the island. Now, both were distilled on a traditional 2 column still. They're initially aged in new French oak for a year and then transferred to ex-cognac casks. Altogether, both of these were aged 16 years at the distillery. Now, for those of you who like your dates, both were barreled in May 2006 and then bottled September 2022. Now, what was I doing May 2006? Honestly, I was probably drinking a whole lot of vodka and cranberry. Yeah, I've come a long way, baby. Now, in terms of ABV, the rum agricole is bottled at 59% ABV, and then the traditional molasses rum is bottled at 57%. Let's give these a try, and we'll start with the traditional molasses rum. So there's this like nice touch of earthy honey and vanilla, a little bit of dried fruits, and then there's like this vibrant note that runs throughout like a lively, citrusy, salted spice. Oh wow. Oof. So there's like this touch of like salted honey, and then there's like this dry flower note, and then this like musty menthol note that I kind of really like. All right, let's try the rum agricole. So I'm primarily smelling nuttiness, some fresh orange juice, and some dried fruits. Okay, so this is basically like berries covered in salted caramel. Yeah, it's that good. Oh, and the finish, I'm getting a little like nuttiness that you often find in sherries. Honestly, I never thought a cane juice rum could quite taste like this. It's kind of blowing my mind. Now, I don't really tend to drink rums that are aged as long as these ones have been, but what really surprised me and appealed to me was that there's a lightness to the oak aging here. It's not heavy-handed at all. Both of these have this like level of elegancy and refinement to them. Now, these are limited releases, so if you are interested, better to buy them sooner than later. Now, the folks at Isautier are looking to get distribution for their Rhum Angers, so who knows, in the next couple of years, we may start seeing some of those as well. And there's our breakdown of Réunion and the current rums that we have available here. I'm really impressed with all 4 of these, and I really hope that we'll start to see more rum from Réunion made available here in the States. Until then, I'll have plenty to keep me busy. Cheers.